remember, government, even a public company that is listed in the stock exchange, or any sizable company that has various shareholders, is accountable to its shareholders. Companies are also accountable to their customers. They are accountable to their service providers. They are accountable to people who supply them with raw materials, etc. Society is accountable to each other. We have a government that is not accountable to anyone except themselves. In Gauteng, at Treasury, I had a whistleblower share information with me, but the whistleblower was too chicken to give me the hard evidence and to agree to come forward, right? Just as well, because I opened so many cases with the Hawks, and none of them have, I can't think of one that has ever been taken to the court successfully. I received a notification just the other day from the SAPS telling me there's a case I opened in 2018 that they are now investigating in January 2025. Money disappears. So what Trump is doing, whatever technology they are using to study the financial flows and all the transactions, because it's a very complicated system that moves money from national treasury to provincial treasury, that involves the banking system, and I'm not sure, maybe the Reserve Bank to some extent, and then from the provincial treasuries to the banks. So your payroll, payment of service providers, all the bulk payments, very complex system with the banks that they use. Through that system, these guys here in Gauteng found a way of, and obviously I'm forced to say it's an allegation because, I couldn't rely on the whistleblower. They found a way of siphoning money, through those bulk transfers. Every time there's a bulk transfer, the social relief grants, salary payments, all the bulk payments, service providers, and any other sort of bulk payment that comes through. Every time those bulk payments are due, they have set dates when they've pre-programmed them through the MAC tape, etc. There's a big chunk that comes out and disappears, literally disappears through, and I'm not saying it's the bank's fault or it's Treasury's fault, but through that transfer between government and the bank. And of course, this is a sophisticated thing that I'm trying to describe that would involve what you call computer programmers or hackers. And I don't know how long this has been going on for, but the informant who told me this at the time, I think might have been talking of a 2-year period. But of course, once they had learned how to do it, once they had gotten the hacker skill, it was just a question of changing the individual hacker and replacing them with somebody else. So the looting is not just through the procurement system, the tender system. It's not just through the ghost employee, through the payroll, the so-called ghost employee nonsense that has never ever been accounted for. Every time you unearth ghost employees, the MEC will come back. Barbara Creasy once did that with me in the finance committee. Said, oh, no, we've cleaned out the ghost employee thing. And I'm like, but I didn't see anybody get arrested. I didn't. Where's the money? Is it back in the bank account? Can we see proof of it in the management accounts, etc.? No, we've stopped it.
Yeah.
Like, but what about the money that disappeared? What about the investigation to say who took it? How did they take it? What about the arrests? Clearly, there were employees between finance and HR, whoever handles the payroll. There's a collusion there. Somebody's doing it inside and outside, whatever, but nothing happened. No, we've just stopped it.
Yeah, but obviously, you speak about democratic systems.
Yeah,
and the jury's out as to what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Until recently, we thought that the U.S. Political system, seemed to work. Now it doesn't seem to work. And the one thing that seems to derail political systems are significant majorities.
Exactly.
Where you would say that the best system in the world hold up to a ruling party with a big majority and its levers on power and able to shut things down, right? I'm saying even if it had your best system that you could think of.
Once you have that majority, which is what I was talking about earlier, because power is very intoxicating.
Sure.
I mean, anybody with too much power in their hands is.
But let's talk about the role then of some of the opposition parties.
Yeah.
Right? Especially the leaderships of those opposition parties that prefer to pick fights with people who aren't involved in the malfeasance. Right? But say nothing about the money stolen in the Gauteng.
Listen. Let's simplify this for you, because I do understand that an average citizen will have a rosy-eyed, all of this, like every day. I mean, how many articles are exposing corruption in South Africa on a daily basis?
Books, we've got
on a daily basis, on a daily basis. 24 billion rand in PE. That's the latest story. And nothing happens. In China, you'd get executed immediately.
Yes.
Because it's public money. Here's the thing, right? So what they do, these guys, and I don't want to cast aspersion on all of them, because that's not fair. I was, unfortunately, in that space. I'm very anti-corruption to the point I get very violent about it. You will not drag me into any form of corruption. I refuse. And I'm very vocal about it. I've always been. It's not a new thing. But what I know they do, if there's a vote on budget, would obviously be the most critical vote. I mean, other votes are on policy issues, lawmaking, whatever. But if there's a money vote to pass a budget so that we can proceed, they pay each other to vote with your money. So the one who's governing, who's in charge of the purses, would find ways. They loot the money through tenders. We all know how it now works, right? I've now just shared with you another way that they steal it directly from Treasury. Or there's another way that they steal in Gauteng, for instance. And I think they do it everywhere, basically, because one province tests it out. They go and share with their buddies, as you said, if it's a majority. Even if it's different political parties. I mean, some of the parties come from the ANC anyway, so it's just a continuation of the same thing. But now the competition, the stakes are higher. We're now fighting over who's entitled to steal more.
Yes. Because
you robbed me of an opportunity to lead in the ANC, and therefore I couldn't get my billions or whatever it is that the hell that I'm feeling entitled to steal. They also are setting up companies through foreigners who don't exist. Some of them exist, but obviously have the fraudulent IDs. So no, I do not agree. Foreigners only need to go to a country if their skills are needed there. There's no other reason. They can come as tourists, but then, of course, sometimes they don't leave, of course. We know we got a huge chunk of the illegal foreigners from Africa after the 2010, during the 2010 World Cup. And a lot of criminals from all over the world, the Mexican cartels and all of that. So they get foreigners to set up a company. And then that company will get a fund from the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, another case that I opened, never ever investigated to this day. I chat to the guy from the Hawks now and then. He'll, if he needs to follow up on something. There's another case that I had opened against just allegedly robotics program, AI. There's nothing. South Africa is not known for having robotics and AI unless there's a private technology company that's investing in it. Nonetheless, they spent a lot of money, took students overseas for a week on holiday. And those students came back and said, literally, we were on holiday and we came back. And then we were told we must say that we went on some student exchange, blah, blah, blah thing, but they were interns in government. So I was saying that one of the other creative ways they get foreigners to open companies, they allocate grant funding to them where there's, a program to grant fund, for instance, the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller programs, and then, or a loan, maybe a CEDA or SIFA, whatever, and then the person disappears with the money. Of course, if it's a loan and it's funding, they would have had to deposit it into their bank account, which would have been long approved because they've got fake South African documents. And then when you are sitting in the legislature and you're going through these words and words of lists of 2 million, 500,000, 2 million, 1.5 million, 3 million, all this money is written off by the CFO and their teams. And you ask them, what do you mean? You can't just write off without an investigation. Where's this money? Where's this company? Where are these people? No, we can't find them. Government issues IDs. It was always my popular response. I'm like, but government IDs are not issued. Birth certificates, death certificates, marriages, divorces, all of those things are issued. Matric certificates. They're issued by government. What do you mean you can't find the person?